Resident Evil 5.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Resident Evil 5 professional difficulty video walkthrough. This is Chapter 5-2, it's the experimental facility. This is where this game starts to get annoying as hell. So, zombies and guns do not go. They'll never go, please stop trying to make them go. It's stupid, it's never fun, it's always frustrating. It's one of those lines that should never be crossed but often is. The only good game that had a zombie with a gun was Devil May Cry 1. And it technically wasn't a zombie, it was a reanimated puppet. But the marionette with the shotgun in that game is essentially a pacifist until he starts aiming, and it takes him ages to aim, and then when he shoots, it's one big shot that if you get hit by, you deserve to die. And that's how it should work. It should not be perfect aim, A-team douchebaggery that you're going to see from these assholes. Oh, by the way, this is not something that's all that effective, I don't think. I don't know if they come to this door. I want them to rush me because you're at a massive disadvantage up here. I'm not going to be entertaining the cover system in this game because it's atrocious. All I want to do is get rid of everybody I can, and unfortunately my gun isn't strong enough to one-shot people on any body part. If it was, this would be a joke. I could kill these 3 people before they had time to react. I don't have that, so instead I'm going to have to war of attrition it. And if you can get them to rush you like they're doing now, you can stand in that doorway that I was in and wait for them to open the door, and then you can point blank them with the shotgun. Incredibly powerful technique, but unfortunately they didn't fall for it because they weren't coming for some reason. This next room, as you push to this opening, the door's going to open and there's 2 people. I'm going to get them both with one headshot. Watch this. It's a beautiful shot coming up. Complete luck, but it's nice when it happens. And that's all the encounters in these first 2 rooms. The checkpoint here isn't until you clear the entire next room, and the next room is the tough room. So, I'm a little tentative because I'm not quite sure of the spawns just yet. I am, of course, now because I'm really familiar with it, but at the time of recording, I wasn't quite as familiar. There's some Magnum bullets to pick up, always good. The Magnum's proved very useful for us. I don't think you'll see me use it again, but even so, it's better to have than to not have. Coming up here is the hardest part of this checkpoint. It is a sequence of about 3 guys waiting for you with their guns cocked, so if you go into cover and you use the worthless cover system, you will get shot before you get a chance to shoot back. So instead we're going to eke around this corner, and we're going to shoot any exposed body parts while giving them the smallest possible target to hit. It has to be told, you can get hit when you're behind this just because occasionally bullets just ignore geometry and hit you, just like they did in Resident Evil 4 in that chopper section. I don't know why it does that, I think it's disgusting, but it does. Apparently, the bullets are tiny and the gaps in the geometry are accommodating enough to let them go through. There's some shotgun shells, which is nice to see. And I'm going to take this very slow because after you kill these guys, when you push forward, there's going to be a spawn of more people with guns at the back, and you're going to get rushed by people with stun rods. And the stun rodders will run at you and swing before you've had a chance to blink. It's an incredibly fast animation and it's incredibly unfair. The good news is, they telegraph it from a distance, and anything if you touch them with will usually knock them down or interrupt them, which is very fair, but I still think there should be a stop and then a beginning of an animation for an attack. They shouldn't just be able to seamlessly go into it. And you might wonder why I feel this way. Everything the player does is static. You are forced to stop before you do anything in this game. You can't aim while moving, you can't reload while moving, you can't swap weapons while moving, you can't heal while moving. So, why can the enemy? It's one of those trades-off that I think, just in the basis of fairness, that the enemy should have a delay on their attacks, because without delay, how can you fight back when you are delayed? It's a balancing process that I think is difficult to do. I'm using my club right now because my sniper ammo is at 0, and you might wonder, well, that seems a bit strange because before you seem to have quite a lot. This is 2 pieces of gameplay spliced together because I got hit with the stun rod, which is why I'm telling you how dangerous this particular next spawn is, because I got fucked by it. And I wanted to keep the double headshots, I thought it was quite fun. So I've essentially put 2 pieces of gameplay together, and on this particular run, which you didn't see the beginning of, sniper ammo was not as prevalent as it was on the other one, because once again, the drops are random, the boxes are random, and this game can be very random when it comes to how it shells out supplies. But I've backed up here, and all I'm going to do is use this doorway to damage people. The problem I'm facing is my shotgun is just not as strong as what they probably thought you would be using on this difficulty. So this is taking a while. And I'm going to make a mistake here, guys, because I get impatient. And don't do it. You know, don't make the same mistake as me. Don't do this, because do you see that? That guy shot me before I had a chance to recover and put my weapon up from opening a door. That's one of those moments where I just, you know, Resident Evil 5 doing what it does best, which is fucking the player. So, but that was my fault. I did not have to push that door. I pushed that door because I wanted to be done with this sequence, and it cost me. So now you know, if you're more patient, you will not take that unnecessary bullet, and you'll do fine. But I am by no means perfect, guys, and I'm very impatient at times. Other times, got the patience of a saint. But for the most, I like to get shit done. I don't like fighting people with guns in this game at all, because I just think it turns into this horrible third-person shooter that the game was never meant to be. Like, people leave the same comment all the time on my videos when it comes to Resident Evil 6. They always say the same thing, which I find fucking baffling. You know, Resident Evil 6 might not be a good survival horror, but it's a great action game. Like, you need to play better action games, because if you think that that's great, you just have a terrible frame of reference. Do you want to know a great third-person shooter action game? Vanquish. Compare Vanquish and its systems and its mechanics to RE6. It just falls apart, guys. And this is not me hating on 6, because I've said I'm not going to do it, and I'm not going to do it. A lot of people like 6. I appreciate that. 6 has qualities. I'm not going to name them because the, you know, once again, I don't want to go into that whole diatribe. I've done it far too much. It has qualities. Being an action game isn't one of them at all, because it's just, I'm doing it again. You see, I can't even make a point without condemning that game, so I'm just going to stop. All I'm going to say, guys, is pick any action game you like, honestly, that you really like, and then put Resident Evil 6 next to it, and compare how the systems interact with each other. And then see which one comes out on top on the overall. That way, you've done it yourself, and you can be the judge of yourself, and you can have your own answers. But to me, any action game I pick will beat Resident Evil 6 every time. And, you know, that just goes towards my taste and everything. But be careful in this section. The first person I killed with the neckbreaker, I did so because he always spawned a head parasite. And if you headshot some of these guys with guns, they can proceed to finish the rest of their clip and kill you. So don't fall for that either. This section here, I'm going to blow up some barrels in the back there, and it's going to kill everybody else who's in this room. Shoot that guy, and for some reason, it does that. That will generally clear out everybody but, I think, one more person, which is him. And then all we have to do is shoot through the gap in the bottom of this fence, like that, and then we've won. The music will dim and fade, and we'll be on the next sequence. This is a very, very tough level, I think, and it's only tough because it's so easy to get shot. And if you don't wear the vests, the bullets will put you almost to dying every single time. And even if you do wear the vests, certain shots do a lot more damage than you think they would. So it's very dangerous, regardless of how you prepare yourself. The best way to prepare yourself that a lot of people will do is to come here with infinite weapons. Infinite weapons are the key to having the least amount of stress when you play this game. Because it just, if you can just fire rockets and, you know, have that kind of measure of destruction at your fingertips, everything else just slides away from being anything at all. And it's really true. It is really true. But I think a lot of people that are watching this because they like to watch Resident Evil 5. I probably don't. I say probably don't. I don't think at all that there'll be many people watching this looking for advice or looking for a way to beat this game like this, because the only people who do it are the people who are capable of doing it, you know? Like, you're not going to see somebody who's having a really tough time with this game coming to this walkthrough and being like, oh wow, that's how I do it, that's what I'll do. Because they'll just use those great guns and they'll play with a buddy who has those great guns too, and then they'll get through it together like that, because that's what everybody does, you know, that's what everybody does. So we are the niche here, we are the exception of that rule. This is of course another corridor full of lickers. You don't have to engage any of them. You can walk past all of them. I'm not too sure how sneaky and how overt you can be here when you move. I personally don't run. I don't know if running sets them off, but I feel like it would, because it's just that kind of game. And then coming up here, I don't know how close you can get to the lickers before they notice that you're there. So I'm going to give them a wide berth, and it's more out of my own trepidations towards stealth mechanics than it is anything else. For all I know, you can stand bang next to these guys and they don't react, because that's pretty close just then. I think this is a cool feature as well in a game such as this, because for most, this is very actiony. It's very actiony, it's very intense, it's got all those nice set pieces that Michael Bay would give 2 thumbs up to, and then you have this nice contrasting gameplay. It's an interesting peak in a game that has a lot of valleys, so it's... I think this is one of the best parts of the game, just because it is such a different type of conflict. And speaking of different, this is just Call of Duty coming up. This is where the game really gets ridiculous. So, this is going to be a big siege against dynamite throwers and AK-47 green laser sight douches on the other side of a conveyor belt that's moving. And my strategy here is to drop down, get the checkpoint, and then immediately start killing the people on your side, which is this fella here. And then there's a fella to your right. And then all we're going to do from this point is we're going to be killing the dudes on the other side from the cover of where I'm stood. So I waited for him to run at me, doing his ever so bullshitty running and then striking instantly. That time his spacing was off for some reason, and he missed me. Wow, that looked like the flashbanger over there killed his own dude. But do you see those flashbangs that guy's going to be chucking continuously? They damage you. It's not a lot, but it's still damage, which is a little annoying. But we're going to use the snipper, and we're going to proceed now to... Do they damage you? I should watch my life. You'll notice your life goes red when they go off, but I don't know if it is in... Yep, they damage you. They definitely damage you. It's very small, but... Like, how is that fair? He can throw a grenade that can splash me even though I'm not all that close to it, that does little bits of damage, and he has infinite of them. Like, I just... Once again, guys, I have a lot of disagreements with this game. But this is a walkthrough, so I'm trying to not divulge too many of those and go too deep on that, because I don't want it to all be about me completely breaking down every system and why I think it fails. You know, there are parts of this that you need me to tell you what's happening, because you might not be too clued in as to how the mechanics work or just how dangerous some of these moments are. For instance, over there is a guy who loves to throw shit, and above him, on the corridor next to the explosive barrel, is another guy who's tricky to see who loves to throw shit too. So if you blow the barrels up, he's gone. And as you push across here, there are moments where you might also get thrown at by dudes, because there just seems to be a gift for throwing bombs across large distances and landing right next to you. But as you push up, more people with guns, they blend in very well. There's a lot of green geometry here, there's a lot of shadows and darkness, and it's not the easiest thing to see. But I've done this a few times, so I do know where most of them are. I think we're pretty much clear. The music is subsided a little bit, but it's not completely gone, so caution is definitely required. And we can push forward, and I'm taking it slow. Slow and steady. Double checking. Use the camera to your advantage as we pop up onto this section, and I think there's just the dude who's blocking the door now. I think we're good until the doorway. But it wouldn't be Resident Evil if there wasn't some contrived, pointless, environmental requirement of the player. Because, of course, to move around any kind of storage place like this, with these massive conveyors leading to furnaces, the only way to get to the managerial offices and to certain parts of the building is to run on the conveyor that is leading towards the incredibly dangerous furnace. I mean, what else would you do in a factory like this? And there's a dude just at the top of these stairs who I think transforms into one of those cauliflower dudes. Turns into the cauliflower ear monster, as I call it. So, he's wearing armour, which I should really discuss. So the creatures in this area are going to come with armoured shin guards, armoured bodies, armoured faces, and a mixture of those armoured pieces. The only place that is universally exposed, he didn't turn into the monster, by the way, which was nice, but the universal weakness is their arms. There'll be some people that have got full body armour on, except for their arms and the face. Oh, be careful here, this guy's throwing the German stick grenade things. If you didn't know, you can shoot the grenades on his bandolier, on his vest, and it will blow him up. You can also shoot the grenade as he throws it, which is good too. Be careful here, because the guy behind there throws those bombs onto the conveyor belt. They move on the conveyor belt, and then they can come exactly where you are and blow you up. It happened to me a few times. All I'm doing here is thinning the herd of douchebag throwing bombs who are going to be on this conveyor belt. Because once you hop onto it, when you get about halfway through, you're going to spawn a bunch of shield dudes and normal dudes that are at the opposite side of this blocking your way. And there's about 3 or 4 spawns of them, and if you try to rush this section, you'll just get cock blocked because you can't go past them because they're a collision nightmare. So instead, what I recommend doing is I recommend chilling out on this middle spine of these belts, and then as soon as the dudes who drop onto these to come to you start moving forward, use this infinite supply of red barrels to take them out. Of course, the aimer at this distance is not helpful at all. It's just a bad mechanic, I think. Great idea, very innovative, terribly implemented. And then, wow, how the hell did she ever survive that? I don't know, but I'm glad she did. And all I'm going to do now is going to get some space from that barrel, I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to use it to get rid of those people. Because the barrels are so good, guys, they're amazing, and getting rid of people with those metal shields is not fun. Unless you're packing piercing. Or unless you've got a lot of grenades. Or maybe use the grenade launcher. A lot of people use the grenade launcher in this game because it's got some good functions. I've never really messed with it personally. So here's a bunch of grenade tossers at the top, and a few more dudes coming onto the belt. The good part about this particular section, aside from just how far you can go back and still be effective when it comes to blowing up the explosive barrels, is nobody can come from behind here. And that's very powerful. If this was Dead Space, they'd spawn dudes behind you, because that's just one of those mechanics they love to do. Their idea of tension in battle is to make you walk into the middle of a room to trip something, blindside you with somebody in front of you, and then attack you from behind. And I love Dead Space, guys. I really do. But I've never liked that idea of design. Something that I've always felt is useful and valid at times, but if it becomes the central focus of your gameplay, it gets very tired very quickly. Because all you do is run forward and immediately turn around, don't you? That's all you ever do. You always do that. You'll go into a room, you'll go to the trip point, you'll ignore the dude in front, and you'll run back. Because that's what we're programmed to do once we know that that's a mechanic. Because you know that's where they're going to come from. And you get to the point where you're not even afraid of what's in front of you, because you know the real threat's behind. And I think it undermines then one half of the design. Whereas in this game, they don't do that too much. They do it occasionally. It was happening in the caves, wasn't it? But aside from that, I don't think there's been too many instances of we'll sneak a dude behind you just to be a dick. Which I think is a big compliment to the game. You know, any game that faces you off against people in a creative but fair manner is a game that is worthy of praise. Because I'm not asking for every enemy to be in front and telegraphed a mile away with a nice sign telling me exactly who's coming, because that would of course be boring and uninspired. But if you can be creative with how you introduce your enemies and it doesn't involve using the same trope every time, then you're winning. You know, you understand the video game. There is the SIG 5.56. That is another. Technically it's an assault rifle, but it's used in this game as kind of like a machine gun, where it uses the machine gun ammunition, and it's a gun that's used for suppression and doesn't do the most damage, but it does considerably more than what I'm using. That being said, you might be wondering how much damage does your gun do. Well, the club that I've been using for the entire walkthrough has not been upgraded damage-wise, so it does 50 damage a bullet. But you'll notice, hasn't stopped me killing people, hasn't stopped me being successful and effective, because we're not using it for damage.
Why would they need these, do you think?
Maybe they're planning
We're using it for positioning, and because it's quick and it's got a big clip. But once you come onto this place, we're going to be introduced to a new enemy, and this new creature is known as a Reaper. And the Reapers are one of the most beautifully designed enemies in this game, but once again, they're also kind of bullshitty. So, they will emit a gas that obscures your vision, so it makes it more difficult to hit their weak point. Their weak point is a glowing like carapace that they have, and there's one on their back, there's one on either of their shoulder, and there's 2 on their back and there's one in their chest. The one on the chest opens and shuts. All it takes is 1 bullet to touch it, 1 bullet to hit a weak point, and it'll open up its back. When it opens up its back like this, if you don't kill it, it's going to start doing this moving, flailing attack. And you'll notice I now have a Magnum. So I couldn't kill this thing with the shotgun or the sniper rifle on that one rotation that you just witnessed. So I got the Magnum out to kill it quickly. That enemy is easy if you can get your shot off. If you miss your shot, it becomes a nightmare, because he has a one-hit kill grab that is very, very vacuumy, which is kind of a nightmare, and when it obscures your vision, it obscures your aim, so it makes it difficult to see whether or not you're on target. So there's definitely a learning curve to that creature, but they are fair. They're very fair. The only reason that I would call them bullshit, as I've mentioned, is the moments where their weak point doesn't open. So you're shooting at its weak point and you're waiting for that, opening and shutting that happens, and it just kind of doesn't happen. And you end up wasting more money than you need to, because you know you're on target and your bullets just aren't hitting the bit that needs to be hit. So that can be a little frustrating. You can lead the Reaper onto this conveyor belt, stun him, and he'll die in the furnace if you want to save bullets. But I don't like doing that because you can get grabbed by those dudes and it can end badly. But it's cool to know anyway. I just gave her a grenade by accident. Fucking hate that so much. But it happens. So what can you do? But we're really moving now towards I would call them the make or break sections of the game. 5.3 is the longest and most difficult chapter in the game. 6.1 is pretty tricky. And then 6.3 has one of the bigger gauntlets that you'll have to do. But luckily enough, at that point, you're as strong as you're ever going to be. And you have all the tools available to you to survive. Take a shot as the knife fails. And I think we're about to take on a boss. Or maybe that's in the next video. But open the tandem door, which I've trimmed out because I hate them. Oh yeah, here's the boss. Put your rocket launcher on and proceed to shit on his chest. Terrible boss, terrible fight. Thank you for watching. You take care now.